it wasn't supposed to happen this early. On November 9, 2025, as most of Canada was still clinging to autumn, a powerful early-season snowstorm swept into Montreal and southern Quebec, turning golden leaves into frozen memories overnight. Within hours, the city of 4 million plunged into chaos. Snow, sleet, and freezing rain collided under a sky the color of steel. Roads disappeared beneath sheets of ice. Power lines snapped like twigs under the weight of heavy snow. By dawn, nearly 400,000 people were without electricity. Airports shut down, schools closed, cars spun helplessly on bridges and overpasses. It was Montreal's first true taste of winter, and it came weeks too soon. A city known for its endurance was about to face a storm that would test not just its infrastructure, but its spirit. This was the storm that woke Quebec before winter had even begun. By Sunday afternoon, the first snowflakes drifted down like a warning. Within hours, they thickened into a blinding curtain of white. Winds gusting up to 25 miles per hour whipped across the St. Lawrence River, turning visibility to near zero. Environment Canada's forecast called for up to 14 inches of snow, but no one expected how quickly it would arrive or how heavy it would be. Wet snow clung to power lines, bending trees until they snapped. Icicles formed on traffic lights. Cars skidded helplessly through intersections. The sounds of sirens echoed through the city as the first wave of accidents struck. Over 300 collisions reported across Montreal by nightfall. By 10 p.m., neighborhoods like Laval-Longueuil and the Plateau Mont-Royal were shrouded in darkness. The hum of daily life vanished, replaced by the low growl of generators and the crunch of boots in snow. Inside apartments, families huddled beneath blankets as temperatures dropped below freezing. Parents told children to stay calm, lighting candles for warmth and comfort. On social media, Montrealers shared images of streets transformed into frozen rivers of branches piercing through car windows, and of the eerie glow of a city caught between autumn and winter, between calm and catastrophe.
3 o'clock in the morning, then after 3.
As night fell over Montreal, the city vanished beneath a blizzard's silence. Streetlights flickered, then went dark. Wind howled through alleys, slamming doors and shattering windows. By midnight, temperatures dropped into the low 20s DGF, and the wet snow turned to solid ice. Inside homes, the air grew colder with each passing hour. Families layered up in coats and blankets, boiling water on gas stoves for warmth. Hospitals switched to backup generators as power grids collapsed under the sheer weight of snow and ice. Firefighters responded to dozens of calls. Carbon monoxide leaks downed power lines, and house fires sparked by overloaded heaters. Across Quebec, Hydro-Québec reported over 380,000 customers without electricity, nearly a quarter of them in Montreal alone. Highways 40 and 20 were partially shut down after multiple vehicle pileups, and public buses stopped running entirely. At 2 a.m., rescue crews moved block by block, checking on elderly residents trapped in freezing apartments. Paramedics used snowmobiles to reach neighborhoods where ambulances couldn't drive. The city that prided itself on surviving winter was now fighting its first true battle of the season against a storm that refused to end and a night that felt endless. Meteorologists called it a perfect collision. A low-pressure system sweeping across the Great Lakes had met a surge of cold Arctic air descending from northern Quebec. When the two systems clashed above the St. Lawrence Valley, the result was explosive, a hybrid snowstorm born from both seasons at once. Instead of a gradual change, Montreal was hit with a meteorological whiplash. Rain turned to sleet, sleet to snow, and snow to ice within hours. The storm's dense, moisture-packed snow weighed up to 20 pounds per cubic foot, enough to crush branches, tear down wires, and paralyze infrastructure built for slower, steadier winters. Experts at Environment Canada said this pattern is becoming more common as climate volatility increases across North America. Warmer autumns now collide more violently with cold fronts, producing unpredictable early snowfalls and mixed precipitation events. These transitional storms, once rare, are now part of a growing trend across the Northern Hemisphere. Jeff Carlson, a senior forecaster, warned that storms like this are no longer outliers, they're signals. Montreal just experienced the kind of event we used to see in January, now it's happening in early November, he said. In a warming climate, winter doesn't just arrive, it attacks. By Monday morning, the storm's human cost was undeniable. Nearly 400,000 people across Quebec remained without electricity. In Montreal alone, more than 50,000 homes sat in darkness, some for over 24 hours. Inside, temperatures dipped into the 30s. Families used candles for warmth and flashlights for comfort. At an emergency shelter in Laval, a young mother held her two children close beneath donated blankets. "We're just trying to stay warm," she whispered to a local reporter. Nearby, senior citizens lined up for hot soup, their breath visible in the frigid air. Hospitals reported dozens of cases of hypothermia and frostbite, especially among the elderly and homeless. Police and firefighters went door to door in the hardest-hit neighborhoods, checking for anyone trapped or in distress. Across the province, more than 300 traffic accidents were reported within 24 hours. Bridges iced over and vehicles spun out on slick roads. One major pileup on Highway 19 involved 20 vehicles, miraculously leaving no fatalities but several injured. Through it all, Montrealers showed resilience, neighbors sharing generators, strangers clearing snow for the elderly, volunteers delivering food to those stranded. For every story of hardship, there was another of compassion, proof that even when the lights go out, humanity shines through the storm.
This is London.
As dawn broke on Tuesday, the fight to restore order began. Across Quebec, Hydro-Québec deployed more than 1,500 line workers assisted by utility crews from neighboring provinces and states. Helicopters hovered above transmission corridors coated in ice, while bulldozers carved narrow paths through snowdrifts that buried entire streets. Montreal's Public Works Department declared a full mobilization. Over 3,000 personnel and 1,200 plows worked around the clock to clear roads and free trapped vehicles. The city's emergency hotline fielded over 10,000 calls in a single day, from blocked driveways to downed trees. At the same time, shelters across Laval-Longueuil and downtown Montreal opened their doors to residents without power or heat. Fire stations and community centers became temporary homes, offering blankets, food, and warmth to those displaced by the storm. The Canadian Armed Forces were called in to assist with logistics, transporting fuel, medical supplies, and generators to isolated towns. Even local businesses joined the effort, restaurants offering free coffee, hotels providing discounted rooms and churches transforming sanctuaries into sleeping quarters. It was an all-hands response. In the face of the storm's fury, Montreal's resilience was not just in its infrastructure, it was in its people, their endurance, and their ability to rise together against the cold.
Wow, first snow بكندا. بلشت سنو بكندا. بلشت الشتوية.
When the snow finally stopped, the silence felt almost sacred. Montreal stood frozen in time, its skyline shimmering under layers of ice and light, its streets carved into pale, silent canyons. But beneath the beauty was a hard truth. This was not a normal winter storm. City engineers later confirmed that the storm dumped between 12 and 14 inches of snow across southern Quebec in less than 24 hours. Meteorologists called it the earliest major snowfall in nearly 2 decades. But beyond the numbers, it raised deeper questions about infrastructure preparedness and climate volatility. Experts at Environment Canada warned that early-season storms like this could become a new normal for North America's northern cities. Warmer autumns are now colliding with cold Arctic fronts, creating explosive and unpredictable transitions. In other words, winter is arriving sooner, harsher, and with fewer rules. For many Montrealers, it was more than just another snowstorm. It was a wake-up call, a reminder of how fragile modern systems can be when nature decides to rewrite the calendar. Still, amid all the loss and inconvenience, the storm revealed something remarkable: unity. In a city buried by ice, the warmth came not from electricity but from each other. As Montreal's streets slowly cleared and the power returned, the echoes of the storm remained. It wasn't just the snowdrifts or the fallen trees, it was the realization that the seasons themselves are shifting. In 2 days, a city of millions had been humbled by one storm, 14 inches of snow, and nearly 400,000 outages. But within that hardship came resilience. Neighbors shared firewood and food. Children built snowmen beside shattered power poles. And through the darkness, people found light not from the grid, but from one another. This storm was more than weather. It was a message. A reminder that nature doesn't wait for our schedules, our budgets, or our readiness. That the next storm could come sooner, hit harder, and stay longer. As winter deepens, let this be the moment we prepare not just for the snow, but for the world it represents. Because resilience begins long before the first flake falls. Stay safe, stay ready, and remember, every storm tells a story. Like, share, and subscribe for more true stories of resilient survival and the changing planet we all call home.